I'm not surprised. It's a case with any overpopulated area. I
Yeah.
really like those places.
Yep. There's like people like that dress up in like superhero costumes, and then they'll
Right.
say, "Here, you want a picture?" You take a picture, and like, by the way, it's $20. They do that kind of stuff in I think Baton Rouge too, a little bit. A friend of mine told me that these when him and his dad were in their rental truck, they went these two people just came up to them, started cleaning their shoes, and they're like, all right, I guess I'll just let you clean my shoes, and say, by the way, it's $40 when they finished, and they just drove off. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty funny. So anyway, we are now live, guys. How's it going? We're on the podcast. Sorry about the quality. The quality of the last podcast, it just wasn't so good. Don't blame me. It's kind of dark outside right now, and it doesn't help that only 1 out of 4 lights in here actually work. So that's causing it. Just don't mind it. Hopefully, I edited a little bit by now to make it a little brighter at least. But today, pseudoscience. I don't know how to say it right, but pseudoscience warriors. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that a lot of people do not believe in all these, crappy conspiracy theories. But today, we not only have a pseudoscience warrior, but we have a conspiracy theory debunker, a science educator, and a professional MMA fighter, anti flat Earth. And by the way, I don't think he's actually MMA, professional MMA fighter. I just made that up. I do that with my guests. Unless you actually are, I don't know. I remember Jacob. He came on. I said he was a professional skydiver. I don't know. It's fun. But yeah, how's it going, man? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's going pretty well.
We're ready to debunk some conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I'm down.
So, what is the most annoying conspiracy theory or pseudo? I hope I'm saying it's pseudoscience, right? I hope I'm saying it right.
Right.
All right. What is the most annoying pseudoscience or conspiracy theory that you've ever heard?
I think there's some echo. I can't tell on whose end though. Wait, no, it's gone now. All right. So to answer your question, I think the most annoying will be, as of right now, I think it's anti-vaxxers. I don't really care much about flat earthers because the thing about flat earthers is that they're not really harming anyone. They just sort of degrade, I would say, like a society's culture in a way. But anti-vaxxers, they have if they get enough, if they rise to prominence enough, or if they get enough influence, then they have the chance of really harming people. And people who are most active on the whole vaccination, or just anti-medicine groups, circles in general, I think they have ways to like lure people in using their rhetoric, and that could translate to some pretty serious consequences for some people.
Yeah.
So I think those are the most annoying people for me.
Because why would they even be vaccines? It's because vaccines help you not get sick. I don't get the whole reasoning behind anti-vaxxers. It's kind of weird. I find it kind of.
It's funny that it's funny that they say that vaccines are they're harming you, or vaccines on the global scale are doing bad things. Well, you know what? Ever since vaccinations, they've been on the rise, and life expectancy has also been rising very fast, and poverty has been going down. So if vaccines are really supposed to hurt you in any way, I mean, they're not doing a very good job at it.
Yeah, just think about it. Like if you go back just 100 years ago, or like 100 to maybe 150, like average lifespan of humans used to be like mid-40s or something. Especially during the Industrial Revolution, because people worked in factories and they got hurt a lot or sick a lot. But now vaccines and modern medicine actually helps humanity a lot. It helps us live longer. One of my personal goals is be the first human to live to 150. This is a funny goal of mine, but I think wasn't the most oldest human. Oops, tablet almost fell. Wasn't the oldest human 120 or 112?
Yeah, I think it was either 112 or somewhere in the 120s. I want to say 123 or something, but I'm not too sure. But it was really out there.
Mm-hmm. And another, speaking of conspiracy theories, what is a conspiracy theory where you know for a fact it's not true, but it sounds like really cool?
That's interesting. I would. There are a lot of conspiracy theories out there that sound kind of cool, but I would have to think of something. I think some of the JFK ones. I think they're. I can't tell if they're true or not, but there's a lot of, or maybe some of the Vietnam conspiracy theories, like the Gulf of Tonkin or whatever. Like some of the motives that we've had to go into war. I think they're kind of interesting when you consider the whole geopolitical perspective. But I can't put my hands on whether or not the conspiracy is true. It sounds plausible. There are certainly some out there that sound reasonable, and they sound very interesting. That could, because they explain the motives of certain powers. But I can't say whether they're true or not.
Yeah, the JFK. Speaking of JFK, those kind of theories. I watched a documentary on that. It's more like a TV show documentary on Travel Channel called Mysteries of the Museum.
Right.
And he went over the JFK assassination and pretty much proved that it's. Speaking of that, also, the government is going to release the files pretty soon in a few years because they know what happened. It's just that they're not releasing the files yet. But we pretty much know most likely what happened, according to that documentary. It pretty much proved that the original thing about how the main guy that just shot him with a sniper from, that building was the only one. And they demonstrated how the bullet could sort of curve in the way it kind of did. I forgot exactly how, but it had to do with the type of car, how the seats were positioned, and how the men in the car were sitting. Something like that. It was really interesting. I'd really recommend you guys watch that. But let's see. It's really interesting. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some more pseudoscience and conspiracy theories right after this 30-second commercial break. Clownophobia. I don't know what it's called, but the fear of clowns. If you don't like clowns, check out IHateClowns.com, their merch store. They have the top t-shirts and keychains and anniversary stickers for people that hate clowns. So if you don't like clowns, go to IHateClowns.com with the link down below in my description. Really cool. Check it out. Awesome website for you to see. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that 30-second commercial break. Really fun. If you want to check out IHateClowns.com, link in the description again, IHateClowns.com. So yeah, next question is, who do you think is the person that's putting out the most and worst pseudoscience out there?
I think the anti-vaxxers are definitely the most damaging. There is some certain circles in the flat Earth community which are just so annoying to the point that I've just stopped talking to them. It's just, there's no point of raising your blood pressure by like a solid 10-20% just to just to talk with these people. I just stopped doing it because I just don't see much of a point. And plus, they sort of lost influence as this whole flat Earth meme has sort of died down.
Yeah.
So I don't really go into it that much anymore.
Yeah. Have you seen the Beyond the Curve, that documentary on Netflix about flat Earthers?
Yeah, I've seen part of it. Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to tell you what the ending was, but all I'm gonna say is that the ending made me feel better. Do you want me to tell you the ending?
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, if you want to see Beyond the Curve, just maybe press the skip like 30 seconds button. So at the end, well, in the middle, in the end of the middle of it, they do an experiment with a gyroscope. It's a it can measure the rotation of the Earth, and they said if the Earth is flat, it doesn't rotate, and so it should be 0 degrees. And then they said if the Earth does rotate, I think they said it would be 15 degrees. I know the math, but I can't do it in my head this instant. But yeah, I think it would be 15 degrees if they said it would be 15 degrees if the Earth was round and spins. And then they did the experiment. Turns out they want it to be 0 because that will prove that the Earth doesn't spin and it's flat. Turns out it's 15. So that proved that the Earth is not flat. And then they want to go against that data and say, well, no, something else has to be going on here. And they did another experiment where they get a laser beam in this giant open field, and they have like a barrier, and then in between the laser beam and the person that's like receiving the laser beam, like watching it, and then there's another barrier after between them again. And so they said if the Earth is flat, the laser beam will go through both of the barriers, and then it it'll go through both of them because if the Earth was curved, it wouldn't. It'll go through one and not the other because the Earth bends because it's curved. It turns out they don't see the laser beam come out the other one, and then they're like, oh, can you raise your arms a little bit? When they raise the arms, then you see it. So that was literally the ending where they just proved themselves wrong again. That was pretty funny. Yeah, flat earthers.
Yeah, they tend to shoot themselves in the foot many times, so I'm not that surprised.
Yeah. So I took a look at your account, and I mean, in my opinion, it seems like you're very knowledgeable in all sorts of sciences to be able to debunk all these, theories. So I wanted to ask you, what science is your favorite?
Well, I'm going to be going into engineering, so I like physics. I also like geoscience a lot. I like geology. I think it's a very fascinating subject, and also weather science. I think meteorology is also just incredibly fascinating. Just explaining why certain weather patterns happen and everything. There's or ocean currents and whatnot. I think oceanography is also pretty fascinating. I like geology and geography because I love hiking and stuff. I like taking pictures. I have another photography account, so knowing some of the story that goes along with some of the stuff that I see, I think it's pretty interesting.
I had a 6th grade teacher that when I was in 6th grade, he was a geologist before he started doing teaching. He wanted to try out teaching in his first I think it was first year. But yeah, he was also very interested in geology. I personally am not interested in geology just because I'm not very good at it. But I like that you said physics because I also like physics. I mostly like theoretical physics because in theoretical physics, it's like you deal with stuff that is not common sense, like especially quantum physics. But mostly in theoretical physics, it's like more sci-fi things out of this world that you deal with, and it's really fascinating to me.
Right.
What's the most interesting fact in geology that you can give everyone that's watching this?
There is a lot, actually. I'd have to think about it when it comes to like climatology and everything. I think some of the energy involved in something like hurricanes is just phenomenal. And just certain facts about it. I think one I can pull out, a cloud weighs like a couple tons or something like that. Like regular clouds, they can weigh up to like a couple of blue whales.
Wow.
Because there's just so much water in there, and water is actually a pretty dense liquid. And
That's crazy.
And then just going off to like the geographical extremes, like if you go from the North Pole to the equator, you actually lose weight because the Earth's spin, the centrifugal force. I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this apparent force pulling you outwards because the Earth is spinning, and you actually weigh slightly less at the equator than you do at the poles. And that was kind of interesting.
It's crazy. Centrifugal force is a very powerful and important force. It's what keeps stars from collapsing all the way and allows them to become black holes if they can. Because if you guys didn't know, when a star collapses on itself, it can almost collapses because of its gravity. It runs out of fuel, and then its gravity makes it collapse on itself, and then it's spinning, like part of the core is spinning, and that causes it goes against the gravitational force so that it doesn't collapse all the way and just, disappears. And so you still have part of that core left that's spinning, and then turns to a black hole because it's so dense, and that means black holes spin. So that's something pretty cool. Would you ever be a storm chaser?
I mean, I've never done storm chasing, but it's something I want to get into. I'm into astronomy also quite a bit. I love taking pictures of astronomical objects. So like about the star thing that you said, I think part of the reason why they don't collapse on its own, it has to do with the radiation pressure that's coming from the core. So the actual light, it's pushing it outwards. The gravity's going to push it inwards. So I think that's the reason. There could be something about the spin that I don't know of, but I think that's the reason why. But about storm chasing, I don't. I've never done it, but it's something I definitely want to. It sounds super thrilling, and I've seen some videos, some time lapses of certain storms. It's pretty beautiful, and it's something I want to get into.
Yeah, it's really crazy too. Like the feeling of seeing massive storms like up close is just super fascinating to me too. Yeah. So, what conspiracy theory was the easiest for you to debunk?
Honestly, a lot of them that are like that are like anti-science, they're all pretty easy to debunk. You just have to sort of go into, you just have to, I mean, either you can just use common sense as with flat earthers, or you could just look at their source, and then you could just tell from right there that if they're how much full of crap they are. But when it comes to actually debunking it, then anti-vaxxers have to do slightly more digging. But really, the difference in easiness between anti-vaxxers and flat earthers, I mean, it's marginal. The only thing anti-vaxxers is that they use slightly more complicated words and medical terms to scare people. But really, if you go down to the meat of the issue, it's really not that hard to debunk a lot of pseudoscience.
Yeah, reminds me of fake MMA fighters, or fake MMA masters. They'll like use all these technical terms, and they'll do something real stupid, and then the person like pretends to fall down or something. They're like, I will hit the blood vessel in this specific place and mess up their, they just use all these, technical terms to try to make people think it's real. It was one in this video I saw, top 10 con artists getting exposed. It was really funny. I remember one of them being a psychic, and the news reporter made a guy go in with
I've seen that.
Yeah, it was a picture of her as a child, and then the psychic said, he said that she went missing, and the psychic said she was killed. And then the news reporter comes in, and she's like, well, that's actually me as a child. And the psychic charged like $400 for that. What do you think about psychics? I think they're the dumbest thing ever, dude. Like, it's funny though.
I think it's really, really unethical to be exploiting grieving families who have just lost their kid or something like that, and then they charge them some insane amount of money just to make stuff up and give them false hope. I think it's really disgusting, and really these people should be charged for fraud. They honestly deserve some sort of legal repercussions by not only giving false advertisement, but it's just such disgusting behavior. Like someone's kid has just died and they're desperately looking for answers. So they go to a psychic or something, and the psychic makes stuff up and charges, like you said, $400. It's just, I mean, when it comes to things that are unethical, I mean, that's just, that's just such, it's not unethical. It's just disgusting. I really feel for the people who have just lost someone who they really care about, and they're looking for answers, and I honestly feel bad for them.
Yeah, for the grieving families.
Yeah.
What do you think? What about the people? So, I got this question. I do something every Saturday where I make a video called Science Saturday, and I put it on my Instagram account. This one person asked me, how can ghosts exist scientifically? And I had my own answer, but I want to hear what your answer for that would be. Like, do you think ghosts could exist scientifically?
Mm-hmm. I think the only way I could think of that the way ghosts could exist is if you somehow uploaded someone's memories or emotions onto a computer, and that computer started doing some sort of projection somewhere else. I feel like that's the only way a quote unquote ghost could exist in the real world. Because I mean, it's science fiction, but I think we will eventually get to a point where we can just upload our memories or emotions onto a computer. I think it's within the realm of possibility. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think it's definitely possible. And then that computer would basically just project, I don't know, let's say a hologram or something onto the real world and call it a ghost. I think that's the only way, quote unquote, ghosts could exist.
I think that's interesting, but don't you think that would mess with people's heads a little bit, like knowing they're seeing a hologram of someone that's like acting at sort of like a holographic AI acting based off the mentality that person would have, but them knowing deep down that it's not actually them.
Yeah, I think that's the question, like, is it not actually them? I mean, if you have the same exact emotions and sentiments being projected onto the computer, then I feel like some people can make the argument that actually is you. If you have just because those memories and emotions are based off of a different process, like using batteries and electricities as a medium for those emotions rather than biological ones. Does it really change the outcome? Does it change anything? And that comes to a question which, I mean, I can't answer. So
yeah, it's really interesting. That would probably, if that ever happened, like people were able to make holograms with that, I think that would be a major discussion among the public. One of those things where people are discussing if it's like this or that, or like if it's actually them or if it's actually not. But my answer to how ghosts could exist scientifically was this may surprise you. Gas leaks. And the reason for this is because there is I forgot her name. I wish I knew her name. But she had her own quote unquote ghost experience where she moved into an old home, and she would get chest pains that would progressively get worse. She would hear and see things, like see people and hear people hear things going through her as if she's being quote unquote possessed. And then it turns out she was looking for people because she got so tired of it. She was looking for people that ghost investigators, and she found a pair of ghost investigators that use scientific explanations. And she called them, and they said, "Well, have you ever heard of carbon monoxide?" And she's like, "Yeah, what about it?" And they're like, "Well, you probably have carbon monoxide poisoning." She calls the gas company and she says, I don't know what's going on, but I just need you to check my pipes and stuff, make sure there's not a gas leak. Turns out there's a gas leak, and it was carbon monoxide, and she was being poisoned by it. And she got lucky that she called them, because if the ghost investigators didn't tell her that, the gas people told her that she could have been dead in a few days.
Yeah.
So these, if you look up symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, it's all the same thing. You get chest pain, and you hallucinate.
Hallucinations, right? Yeah. I mean, when you ask me how ghosts could exist, I thought you were implying that there has to be some way for there to be ghosts. But yeah, when people say that they've seen ghosts, they're usually just hallucinating, because especially with old homes, they're not really up to regulatory standards. So you often have some faucet or some aspects of the home that are really old and worn down. So you get like you said, you get gas leaks. And I think the most common is carbon monoxide poisoning. I was thinking of cyanide, but I don't think that's true. I'm not sure if cyanide can hallucinate you, unless you're like on the floor almost dead. Then yeah, you'll probably hallucinate. But as far as on continuous sort of hallucinations, I think it's carbon monoxide. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can also be psychological things too, because when people have sleep paralysis, and one common symptom of sleep paralysis is you see a dark figure coming towards you, and people think that's a ghost, and it's causing them to. I've heard it so many times. Like, I like to watch these ghost shows, just for the fun of it, because it's entertaining, and they always say, "Well, I was being held down by a dark figure that was trying to possess me." And that's it's been proven scientifically that's 100% psychological. When you have sleep paralysis, you just imagine figures coming towards you.
Yeah. I've had sleep paralysis quite a lot of times. I think they're really interesting. I've had times where like when I'm in the car or something, I can't move my body because I'm asleep, but I can tell what's going on, but I can't move my arms or whatever. And other times when I can't move my body, I can tell that I'm awake, but I can't move, and I would start seeing stuff, which, I mean, I know it's not there. I always find it fascinating. I think it's cool, and I think that people. I mean, I don't know if you sort of, because I mean, how often do you get to see stuff like that and hallucinate like that?
Yeah.
Like, just on a regular basis. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting, and I think if people would stop being scared of it, they could sort of appreciate how your brain sort of has the ability to distort your reality, and I don't know if people appreciate it more. I think that would be a healthier sort of relationship they have with sleep paralysis. So.
Mm-hmm. Also, so I have a 5-question survey that I always that you guys can take with the link in the description. But it's mainly about the type of sciences you guys like. I think we had about 11 or 12 people answer them. So one of the questions on there is SpaceX or NASA. So I want to ask you, which one do you think is doing a better job right now, SpaceX or NASA?
Well, that's a tough question, because the reason why SpaceX exists is because of NASA. They put in a lot of funding, I believe, to SpaceX, and they're the ones who basically contracted them to send missions to the ISS. So it's not like I think there's a competition, or I don't think it's a question of who's better. There's definitely pros and cons of a government agency versus a private agency. So with a government agency, obviously the cons are that they don't have their process streamlined. If they get faulty parts, they're forced to pay the manufacturer to pay for those parts, regardless or not their quality.
Yeah.
Because that's the law. I mean, if the government asks a private company to give them parts to something or for their services, even if their services are subpar or not optimal, the government still has to pay them, and that's a luxury that private companies have. Another thing with government agencies is that the bureaucracy and the red tape and the culture, the work culture, sort of delays them quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
but not with private companies. They have the ability to, they can take more risks, I believe. They can innovate a lot more. And they can really just make space travel so much more um, usable and available to the public. But here's the thing I have about privatization of space. Thing is that if you just rely on private companies, then pure scientific research kind of gets thrown out the window. Because and also humanitarian, there's a lot of humanitarian arguments to be made why government agencies are still so important for for space travel. So I want to give you an example. There's a satellite known as the SMAP, and what that does is that it is made by NASA, and it orbits the Earth, and it scans the Earth's surface to look for water content within the soil. And the data that's made available is public and it's free to use for any of the countries. So, and they're not asking for profit, right? And it's free data that anyone can use to, like other developing nations can use to see where they can find water. And they don't charge anyone, and that's because it's a government-funded project. So you will never, like a private agency would never do that because there's no profit to be made. They can't make money off of it, so they have no reason to do it, and it'd be bad for them if they did it.
Sounds like
another thing is that, right? And sorry, I just love this topic.
Yeah,
and,
it's fine.
And,
keep going.
Another thing is that with government agencies, the ability to do scientific research is something that can only really be done with government agencies, because I don't think a private industry, a private company like a SpaceX would ever launch like a telescope around the Earth, or they would never design the telescope, because why would they make a telescope? You can't make money off of knowing whether or not there's a atmosphere on other planets. I mean, that's very valuable scientific information, but you can't make money off of it. So private companies, I don't think they're ever going to do scientific research for the sake of doing scientific research. And the first people that will get to something like Europa and put in all the time and money to drill below the moon's ice and probe for alien life will probably be government agencies like NASA, because you can't make money if you off of knowing whether or not aliens exist. I mean,
yeah,
it'll be just amazing and groundbreaking if we know that aliens exist, but you can't make profit off of it initially. Mm-hmm. So you have to rely on government agencies on that. So that's why I don't think that NASA versus SpaceX should be much of a competition. Rather than, you should address their strengths and weaknesses, and they should play off of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last podcast guest we had on, she said the same thing, and how it shouldn't be either or. It should be just, both of them have their pros and cons. And speaking of, private companies trying to make money, rather, sounds like as I said in the last podcast too, it sounds like the bottled water companies. You can have tap water that's tested 400 times a month. And people will say, oh, what about the Flint thing? Well, that was just one incident. And when that happened, they actually fixed it. And that was in Michigan, I believe. But it's really tested 400 times a month, tap water, by the local government. And because they have to do that, make sure, people are not dying because of it, because something that got in the water. But you can literally get tap water for like 0.0000005 of a cent. When in bottled water companies, they take that water and then they put it in plastic bottles that are harmful and raise your risk of getting cancer. And they'll charge you way more, like hundreds of thousands of times more than you can get for tap water. It's just making money off of it mainly. And so we have a thing on this podcast we do on every podcast episode. I forgot to do it last podcast, but this podcast we're going to do it, called Tweet the Person Game. So you can pick whoever you want me to tweet to, and you can say whatever you want me to tweet to them. Get my phone right here. And Cool. So, who do you want to tweet to? Who do you want me to tweet to first? And who? What do you want me to say to them?
That's a good question. Let me think of some people that I look up to. I'm not in the mood to troll anyone, but you know what? Let's just do it. Let me tweet out to Jeranism, the flat Earth guy.
How do you spell his name?
I think it's Jeran and ism, so ISM. Maybe he doesn't have a Twitter. It's probably under the name of Globebusters.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, he's here. Globebusters.
Alright, he's on Twitter.
It said founded by Guinness World Record. I don't think that's the right one. Might be. Holders Kevin and Julia Sanders. Might be the wrong one.
Probably not the right one, yeah.
Let me
look up.
Let's see. I found another one. There's 3 accounts that come up. This. Oh yeah. I think I found the right guy. It says a warrior for universal justice. Says latest tweet says we have been indoctrinated with Freemason pseudoscience, something like that.
That sounds about right. That sounds like flat earther stuff.
Okay. What do you want me to tweet to him?
Or think of a joke. But something like, I can't tell what's flatter, the Earth or your head. Nah, that's no. That doesn't make any sense. Why don't you just tell them that you're stupid? I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. I said at Globebusters, flat Earth is stupid.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Cool. Okay, what is the second person you want me to tweet to?
I think Richard Dawkins is a cool guy.
He is.
I would just tell him.
He recently went through a stroke too, I think.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah, he's doing good now though.
Either Richard Dawkins or I think Stephen Hawking is dead, but he had a Twitter, I think. Yeah, or maybe Bill Nye, or maybe tell him something.
Bill Nye? Okay.
Yeah, I have no clue.
It's always hard for everybody to pick, choose what person. So many people out there.
Right. I wonder if Chris Hadfield. He's also a cool guy.
Yeah. He's definitely on Twitter. I've seen his account.
Yeah. Maybe ask him a question or something. But he's answered a lot of questions, so he has an entire Q&A video. But ask him whether he's ever on land. Whether he ever does that. Because I saw another video of him, he was under the ocean. Ask him whether he likes land at all.
Okay. That's a cool question. Do you like
being on land at all? Because last time I saw you, you were in the ocean or something like that.
Okay, at all. Last time you were in the ocean. So I said, Chris Hadfield, do you like being on land at all? Last time you were in the ocean.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Last time I checked, you were in the ocean. Yeah, something like that.
So who is the third and final person you would want to tweet to?
Let's tweet out to an anti-vaxxer. I don't know many. Let me find an anti-vaxxer page on Twitter.
I typed in anti-vaxxer. First person that comes up is some person named Gary.
Oh, professional anti-vaxxer is on Twitter, huh? I was talking to him about a year or so back. I was talking to a professional anti-vaxxer, and he cited some study, and he cited a study and saying how this proves vaccines are harmful or whatever. And I contact the original author of the study, and he told me that this is not true at all. Vaccines definitely help people, and he just misread the study. And I told him something. He completely ignored that. Then I contacted a researcher, and he told me the exact same thing. So I don't know, maybe tell him something. I'm not too sure.
Professional
He uses a lot of big words and complicated words to confuse people, but really maybe address that.
Oh, I found him. Professional anti-vaxxer.
He's gonna start arguing with you. Just letting you know, he's pretty relentless.
Oh, yep. I can already say he's using so many big words. This threat describes in detail a novel mechanism of action induced by the MMR vaccine working synergistically with albumin adjuvant containing vaccines resulting in autoimmunity and brain damage.
I've read the whole autoimmunity thing a while back. That was 2 years ago. So I don't remember the arguments that I used to debunk it, but it was pretty BS. But
what do you want me to tweet to him?
I think you should just tell him that you're stupid too. Don't get into an argument with him. He's pretty relentless. I mean, unless you want to, if you want to go into the papers that he cites and if you're good at research and stuff, then I say go for it. But he's pretty annoying. If you look at it, he has an entire essay on his Twitter. He's writing essays, and only like 12 people liked it. So
I wrote, bro, anti-vaccine. Like, come on.
Yeah, he's gonna keep on going at it. He's not gonna stop.
Oh yeah.
But I'm trying to find the papers that he's citing, and
I'll just like everything that he says. Mess with his head.
I'm trying to look at one of the papers. Why don't we do a debunking right now of what he's saying, actually?
Sure, definitely. You want me to go back to his Twitter account so that I can show the viewers?
Yeah, I'm on his right now. He cited a study. Okay, let me find something.
He says that anti-vaccine argument is driven by spiritual war.
Yeah.
Oh man, this account is hilarious. He uses the word aluminum a lot.
Yeah, because aluminum is a scary word for these people.
He had a whole poll too.
Yeah.
He must have a lot of anti-vaccine fans because only 2% said that 2% said that getting vaccinations is completely safe.
Mm-hmm. For each comment that he's putting down in his super long Twitter rant, he's citing different papers for each statement. It's not a single study that actually tests for this. He's citing different papers for each small statement, but I'm trying to see, because obviously he can't find a paper that actually talks about let's go. CDC does admit that it can cause brain damage. All right, let's see.
Which tweet is this? So I can find it.
Yep, because they say severe events occur very rarely, brain damage. Yep, so the vaccine has the chances, the MMR vaccine has a chance to cause brain damage. But you know what? Driving a car also has the chance to cause brain damage. Because if you're driving a car and you don't brake at the right moment of time, you might get brain damage for, I don't know, for something like impaling your head or whatever when you crash the car. So very rarely causing brain damage. It's not a very good argument, but okay. Oh, he says, I propose that brain damage can occur directly from innate immune system through a unique interaction induced by the measles component of the MMR vaccine administered the aluminum adjuvant component. Okay, so his whole theory is that, and it's his theory that so he's basically making this up. He doesn't have a paper to go along with his theory, but he's citing different papers to go along with each statement that he's making. So it's like that logical fallacy where you where parts of your statement may make some sort of sense, but you add all that together in the conclusion that's coming from that. So then, therefore, if X, Y, and Z makes sense, then then I don't know. Then this must also make sense, which is not true. I mean, you have to have a paper that goes along with your hypothesis. You can't just take parts of that and say, oh, well, if this is true, then this must be true. No, you need actual clinical trials to back up what you're saying, but I don't think he's going to be citing that. I'm just reading through his entire rant here.
He said that the government or the whoever is in charge of vaccines has a whole game plan where you have a disease outbreak, vaccinate all the kids, and then still that disease outbreak, ask adults to vaccinate, and then still the disease outbreak and force adults to vaccinate. Which you can't. How can you? Wait, my confusion is how can you be an anti-vaxxer and not get vaccines and say that they force you to take vaccines?
Yeah. I'm just reading his entire rant here. Okay. Let me just, I'm still reading through it. It's about 20 comments long, so.
Oh, wow. A lot of big words.
Yeah, he does that a lot.
I wonder if he's doing that on purpose, because I know flat earthers try to do that too. Like they
do that stuff all the time.
Really big words, or like
but their logic is usually really stupid.
Yeah, as I said, those fake MMA masters, they use really big words, try to make you think it's real. This dude literally did a whole Super Saiyan, whatever that is, where you go ha me ha, like, and he was explaining how the energy field goes through the human mind and does all this and makes the person fall down.
Okay, and his final statement is, therefore, aluminum adjuvant combined with vaccine strain measles virus can induce a synergetic effect on the innate immune system of the brain, resulting in damaged tissue from complement-mediated cell lysis during excessive and uncontrolled complement activation. Okay, so he's saying that when you combine the aluminum from vaccines and the actual live virus, then it can induce, it can activate something and induce cell death. Okay. And in order to come to this conclusion, he's citing studies from each of his statements, but he has no paper that actually leads to his conclusion. Let's see. Let me cite.
I like how he tweets this stuff like 5 times a day.
Yeah.
I might have to go for a second just to let my dog in the room. But yeah, let's keep reading and see some more stuff we can find.
Right.
Well, never mind. Looks like I was hallucinating my reality. I thought I heard them.
All right, I'll probably read all of this later.
You saw what?
But you know what? It's actually.
He has polls. He always sources articles, and I wonder how he felt when, you know how when you have to go to the next grade level in school and you have to get a certain shot to be accepted in.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how he felt about that. Yeah. I mean, of course they have side effects, but overall they help you. The only weird thing about vaccines is that they give you some that for like sicknesses and diseases that are very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's one that I had to take to get in the 7th grade. It was like some sort of shot, and I remember that it was for a disease or sickness that was very rare and people don't even really get it. But it's probably because those diseases are probably very what's the word for it? They spread very quickly or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you want to get vaccines for the diseases that are rare, because the reason why those diseases are rare is because there's a vaccine for it. So like measles or something, there's only now there's like a couple hundred cases of measles per year in the U.S. But before anti-vaxxers were really all that prominent, measles cases per U.S. was pretty much 0. So, and the reason why it was so rare is because everyone was getting the vaccine for it. So, and now that less people are getting vaccines for it, now measles, they're back on the rise. So
interesting. This is cool. Interesting little part here. He literally tweets like 5 times a day on some of these. Like literally, I've counted like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 tweets in one day that he's made.
Yeah, I don't think he has much of a life. But
he's on Instagram too.
Personally,
he has 11.1k followers on Instagram. Probably bots. I don't know. I know people. I know people that use bots, and it's not really anything wrong with it, but I consider it kind of cheating, in a way.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
He says the same thing.
I hope he's using bots.
Yeah. He says the same thing as bio on Instagram. Oh, never mind. He says the pro-vaccine argument was driven by a spiritual war. I thought he said the anti-vaccine argument.
Yeah, I'd have to go through all the studies and fact check everything. What he's doing here is he's putting a study for each of the statements to reach the conclusion, but he has no paper on the actual conclusion. So let me just turn the video real quick. 1 sec. All right, wait. So I'm not sure if you can see. Okay, so he goes over here, and his theory is that when you combine the measles component of the MMR vaccine with aluminum adjuvants, like the interaction between the two can cause autoimmunity and brain damage. Mm-hmm. And in order to come to that, each of these statements has their own study behind it. But the thing is that his conclusion does not have a study. So what he's doing here is that he's trying to set up components of his argument that taken by themselves may make sense. When you combine it all together, there's no clinical trial on anything. And there's a lot of studies indicating that that adjuvants don't contribute to brain damage. So the only thing he can do here is that he can try to take he's trying to take studies that are legit and only apply them to certain statements, but taken as a whole, his conclusion has no actual study behind it.
Oh, wow. So he's basically, if I'm hearing you right, he's taking snippets of his argument he's taking snippets of parts of articles for his argument, and then he's combining all those snippets to say, well, if this happens and this has to happen, and then making all these tiny snippets where that it's out of context to make his own little conclusion.
Right. So it's basically like I'm trying to think of an analogy. No, I can't think of an analogy right now. So yeah, that's basically what he's doing. Like he's like taken by themselves. Like each of the comments may be reasonable, but the way he's doing it is because there's no study out there that says that aluminum adjuvants can cause brain damage. No reliable study. So he's trying to find another way that he can say that to be the case by citing a bunch of other studies that, taken by themselves, are completely reasonable. But he's basically trying to set up this flow, which leads to conclusion that is ultimately false, because there's no clinical trial out there which says that that's true in the first place.
So he's just manipulating things in favor of his, fake argument.
Well, yeah, that's what everyone does.
That's interesting. Yep, that's what a lot of.
If I have it, yeah, I mean, if I had the time, I would go into it a lot more and actually see where he's screwing up his logic. But yeah, it's an incredibly convoluted thing he's doing here, which is what you need. I mean, if you're so wrong, if you're on a scientific issue, you want to complicate things to the point that it seems reasonable.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you've there's a chess player. His name is Mikhail Tal, and what he used to do is, when he's playing his opponent, he used to purposely pick incredibly complex positions on the chessboard, and then he would use that to his advantage, because then that would screw up his opponent's head, and his opponent would make a mistake, and he would use that to win the game. So there's a famous quote by him, which is like, take your opponent into a deep, dark forest where 2 + 2 = 5, and make sure you can find the way back. So basically what he's saying here is that try to complicate things to the point that things that are logical and make sense, like 2 + 2 = 4, make it so complicated that it now seems like 2 + 2 = 5, and make sure that you know the way back to that you can use that to your advantage, basically.
I know a person that does that in chess and wins a lot. Yeah, a lot. I find a lot of similarities of flat earthers to professional anti-vaxxer, because they kind of do the same thing. They'll manipulate studies and they'll take snippets so it's out of context, when really later in that study it might say that something that goes against their flat earth theory, and they take snippets, put it all together without a study for their conclusion, and try to get people that way. And then they teach their kids that, and then their kids become flat earthers. So yeah, it's kind of a cycle.
Okay, yeah, I see what he's doing here. Like, between statement 9 and statement 10, it makes literally no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically just taking random conclusion studies out of context, and then come to the conclusion, oh, well, you know what? Now aluminum adjuvants cause brain damage, even though it doesn't actually he doesn't have a paper with conclusion. I mean, it's one comment. Let's see if I can. Okay. Results, CD4 respiration.
I'm going to check really quick if my dogs, I think they actually are here now.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not there. They're just making a lot of noise downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Very fascinating. I might just edit out the part where I showed his account. I don't want to put him on blast. But so I don't know. Going back to if he has bots or not for Instagram. There's an easy way to tell if someone has bots on Instagram, and I know accounts. I have an engagement group where I talk with a whole bunch of other science accounts, and we like each other's posts and stuff. One of these guys, I'm not gonna say what his account is, but you can tell he has bots. He literally started a new account, only had one post and had 46,000 followers. Look at all his engagements. Literally, like it was like 17 likes, and then go to his comments, and all of them are like wow, or great post, or cool, or wow, or good post. It's like same things, and it's like simple stuff. If you see someone has comments of simple stuff and their engagement's really low compared to their following, you know they're using a bot. It's obvious because like no one just leaves wow or cool posts. Like there's only going to be like 1 in 100 people that would say that. Someone's going to say something more than just wow or a good post. Like it's always the same things that are simple that would make sense if someone commented them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd have to check. I'll check out his account right now, see if he has bots. I hope they're bots. I can't. There can't be this many people that are like this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Professional anti-vaxxer. There he is. Oh, he's at 12K followers now. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't look like bots.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. People do believe this stuff.
His engagement's pretty low, though, but he does have like legit comments. He's really dedicated to this. Like, if he's making money off of this, I guess I could kind of understand, but that's kind of unethical if you know it's not real, but you're making money off of it, so you just keep promoting it.
So.
All these posts. Oh my god. He literally has I accidentally liked it. I'm not liking that. It's a picture of a baby in like it looks like a coffin, but it doesn't look like a real baby at all, but it says, "We are here to warn you about vaccines for a reason." This guy's really interesting. Yeah, it is a dead baby. And he's saying it died because of vaccines, her shot.
Mm-hmm. Alright, this is kind of... So, looking at the paper that he's citing,
Interesting.
So, I was reading the paper that he cited, and like this statement is the same, copy and pasting the one that's over here. He's reading just the discussions page, but I'm trying to just skim over everything.
Right. Crazy anti-vaxxers. I remember hearing about anti-vaxxers for the first time, and I thought they were really rare. I didn't know they were this common.
They're all over the place. I mean, if once you can see where he's getting like point A to point B wrong, I could get back to you on that later.
Mm-hmm. My guy literally wrote a full essay on an Instagram caption, and literally.
Oh yeah, I do that too. I don't blame him.
Oh. Literally, how many paragraphs is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 paragraphs, each with like 4 to 8 sentences.
Yeah. So it seems to me that I may have to go pretty soon. So I'm not sure how much longer you were expecting this to be.
Oh yeah.
But we'll probably
sure.
Stick around for about 10, 15 more minutes.
Yeah, it's perfect. I literally almost have like 2 more questions for you. So yeah,
all right, cool.
We're gonna do a really quick transition from anti-vaxxing to space and dark energy and stuff like that. The anti-vaxxer guy is probably going to get really mad if he sees this podcast. So yeah, I think we're going to call that segment of anti-vaxxing anti-vaxxers exposed. Because I think it was pretty cool how you literally like said everything that he was doing, how he said his arguments and stuff. So yeah, we just exposed an anti-vaxxer, ladies and gentlemen.
Unfortunately, I couldn't develop like a particular statement. That's something that'll just take more time. Yeah. That's what I mean. Is this isn't hard. It's a little bit tedious. You have to read through the studies and sometimes contact the author for more clarification. But as long as you sort of stick to it and not be intimidated by big words, I mean, it's not that hard to address them. Yeah.
So let's do a quick transition from anti-vaccine to dark matter. So what do you think that dark matter is?
I have no clue. I wish I knew, but it's just something that we don't even know whether it's matter or not, because that implies that we know something about it. We just don't know anything about it. So yeah, I think it's incredibly interesting because it makes up the majority of the universe. Yeah. And it pretty much has to exist in order for our observations of the universe to make any sense. Mm-hmm. Because if it didn't exist, then galaxies would just tear apart, and they don't do that. So there's got to be something that's holding them together, and we just call that something dark matter. Yeah. It's a very mysterious thing in the universe. So before we end this podcast pretty soon, what's a random fact what's one of your favorite facts that you just want to tell to everyone that may be watching this? There's a lot that really highlights the beauty of our world. I'm trying to think of some. The thing with random facts is that it sort of gives people a false sort of idea of how science, the world works. I think in order to really appreciate science, like you have to like really dig deeper into why that fact is the way it is. So I'm trying to think of something like I don't know what is sort of unique that people haven't heard of before, but oh yeah, let me bring up that. In I think a few years, we're going to be launching a satellite which could basically detect the atmospheric compositions of exoplanets. Oh wow! And we can we will be able to basically detect the chemical makeup of those atmospheres, so that could basically tell us whether or not they are possibly biological chemicals there, or maybe even biologically relevant reactions going on.
Yeah, we can probably detect if there's any life on those planets.
I don't think we'll be able to directly observe that, but we could probably come to some
indirect ways.
Right.
So, right before we end this, thank you guys so much for watching. What is the last thing you want to say to everyone that's watching?
So the last thing I want to say, I would say just like, if there's ever something you want to have addressed, or you think there's something fishy there and you don't know whether it's really supported by scientific fact, and there's just a lot of work you need to do to look deeper into it, I'm more than willing to look into it and basically find whether just the reliability of that statement or whatever you see online, because I enjoy doing research. So this is fun for me. So I don't mind looking into it if you're not able to. And yeah, just basically look into like the scientific. And if you're willing to read all the papers and everything, then good for you. I mean, you do eventually get a knack of it, and I think there needs to be more people that are able to do that. But if you're not, because you don't have the time, then I'm more than happy to do it for you.
Cool. So yeah, that's the podcast, guys. This is Anti-Flat Earth. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, we're going to end this here. Cool. Thanks for coming on. Anti-vaxxers, you have been exposed.